Okay. Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to welcome you to the fourth webinar of the TED Fund Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity, and Emerging Skills. We'll have a fantastic afternoon awaiting us because we'll be discussing and we'll have a good friend of ours to lead the discussion on forging an equitable, digitally compliant 21st century tertiary education. And you'll soon hear from the keynote speaker. And so I want to thank you all for coming. I think we're about 77 now, and we're hoping that as time goes on, as many as are opportune will join us, and it will hopefully raise the number to in its hundreds. So please let me not waste any time, but to hand you over to a very able facilitator who has been doing a very good job. For those of you who have been at the second and third webinars, you know that she does it like a pro, and she's no other than Professor Francisca Oladipo, the Vice Chancellor of Thomas Adewumi University in Kwara. She is, of course, a Vice Chancellor, as I've said. She's also an expert and a professor of computer science, but she's done quite a lot of work in many other areas, and particularly helping to build up a university virtually from scratch, and she's reached a very high level that she's been recognized all over the globe. We're even so lucky that we're able to find her around these few days. I'm sure she's already has her baggage packed to take off right from now to the airport. So again, please join me in welcoming Professor Francisca Oladipo to facilitate this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. The chairman of the TED Fund Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity, and Emerging Skills. Good afternoon, good morning, good day from whichever part of the world you're joining us from. Today, we're proud again to bring to you another edition, the fourth edition on the global conversation on digital literacy in Africa, and it is facilitated by our very own TED Fund. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome everyone to today's session, and then to introduce our most distinguished host, the Executive Secretary of TED Fund, who is also assisted by his colleagues, Executive Secretaries, who serve as co-hosts for today's session. I would like to introduce and welcome the Executive Secretary, TED Fund, Architect Sonny S.T. Echono. We warmly welcome you, sir, and thank you for the incredible support for this initiative. And of course, to co-host today's event with our Executive Secretary is the Executive Secretary, the Acting Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, Chief Waziri Chris Mayaki. We welcome you, Ambassador Chris Mayaki. Thank you for your support for the Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity, and Emerging Skills. And thank you for always supporting our global conversation on digital literacy in Africa. I would also like to introduce and welcome the Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education, Professor Idris Bugaje. When we talk about digital literacy, we talk about productivity and emerging skills for the young people. These are some of the men who are behind the scenes supporting programs that promote this initiative. And of course, we welcome the Executive Secretary for the National Commission for Colleges of Education, our own Professor, beg your pardon. I hope he's here with his representative. We welcome you, SARS to today's program. As more dignitaries continue to join us, we recognize them, but it is important that we welcome and recognize the roles of these gentlemen in supporting this initiative. I would like to invite the Executive Secretary of the TED Fund, our own super host, Architect Sonny T. Echono, to give the opening and welcome remarks for today's webinar. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Francisca. I hope everyone can hear me. A very good afternoon to everyone. Distinguished co-hosts, our esteemed keynote speaker, Professor Ebada Sarhan, members of the TED Fund Advisory Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity and Emerging Skills, led by Professor Jegede, our valued participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Tertiary Education TED Fund, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you joining us today for the first diet of our critical webinar series dedicated to advancing digital literacy and emerging skills in Africa, particularly within Nigeria's tertiary education system. This event represents a significant step in our collective journey towards fostering a digitally compliant and equitable educational environment for the 21st century. This gathering coincides with a period of significant transformation in Nigeria's education. So the theme for today's webinar, which is Forging an Equitable, Digitally Compliant 21st Century Tertiary Education for Nigeria, is not only timely, but also critically important. As we are aware, the federal government of Nigeria has only recently set an ambitious target of achieving 70% digital literacy among Nigerians by the year 2027. This goal not only underscores the urgency and significance of our efforts in ensuring that our education system is not left behind in the digital age, but it also highlights the critical need for a strategic and collaborative approach. Undoubtedly, TED Fund, as a leading investor in tertiary education advancement in our country, is resolutely committed to realizing this ambitious vision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The establishment of the TED Fund Advisory Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity and Emerging Skills serves as a testament to this commitment by TED Fund. Through the expertise and collaborative efforts of its members, we aim to develop a comprehensive framework that empowers our institutions to seamlessly integrate digital literacy and emerging skills into mainstream curricula. This webinar series represents a cornerstone initiative fostering knowledge exchange, stakeholder collaboration, and the exploration of best practices in digital skills development. The theme of our discourse today holds immense significance. We are honored to have with us today Professor Ebada Sarhan, a renowned scholar with unparalleled expertise in digital education and a leading voice in the global discourse on digital transformation in higher education, to guide us through this crucial exploration. Digital literacy is no longer a luxury. It is indeed a necessity. It empowers individuals with the skills needed to thrive in an increasingly digital world. For our tertiary institutions, it means equipping students with the tools and knowledge to excel in a global economy driven by technological advancements. Also pertinent is that digital literacy fosters innovation. It enhances productivity and bridges the gap between academic knowledge and its practical application. As we strive to actualize the presidential target, our tertiary education system must lead the way. We need to ensure that our curricula are not only inclusive of digital skills, but are also adaptable to the rapid technological changes that characterize the modern world. This will involve a multifaceted approach This integrating digital tools in teaching and learning, training educators to effectively utilize these tools, and creating a supportive infrastructure that facilitates seamless access to digital resources. In essence, achieving the national digital literacy target of 70% by 2027 necessitates not only widespread access, but also ensuring equitable participation across all segments of our society. A digitally compliant tertiary education system is fundamental to achieving this objective. By equipping our institutions to deliver robust, digitally focused learning opportunities, we empower learners from diverse backgrounds to develop the essential skills needed to excel in the 21st century. Professor Sarhan's insights will undoubtedly illuminate the challenges and opportunities associated with building this digital compliance. His expertise will be invaluable in strategizing solutions to overcome disparities in access to technology and fostering an inclusive learning environment that empowers all learners on their path to becoming digital literate citizens. In closing, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Sarhan for accepting our invitation to be the keynote speaker at today's webinar. Your participation is a testament to your dedication to the advancement of digital education in Africa. To the esteemed members of the advisory committee under the leadership of Professor Jegede, your unwavering commitment and tireless efforts in guiding us towards a digitally equipped future are truly commendable. To all participants, I encourage you to actively engage in the discussions, share your experiences, and leverage this platform for collaborative knowledge exchange. Your contributions are vital to the success of our mission. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I reiterate by saying achieving the presidential targets on digital literacy by 2027 is a formidable challenge, but it is not an insurmountable one. By working together with unwavering commitment, effective knowledge sharing, and a shared vision, we can transform Nigeria's tertiary education system into a powerhouse for digital literacy. This in turn will empower citizens to embrace the opportunities of the 21st century and propel our nation towards a brighter, innovative, and technologically advanced future. Together, let us forge a digitally compliant, equitable, and vibrant tertiary education system for Nigeria, ensuring that our learners are well prepared to meet the demands of a rapidly changing global environment. Thank you once again for joining us today. I look forward to a very stimulating, fruitful, and enlightening webinar, and I'm hopeful that the discussions and insights from today's webinar will serve as a catalyst for action that will inspire us to redouble our efforts and to implement strategies that will transform our education system. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, distinguished Executive Secretary, and thank you for the charge as well. The presidential target of achieving or attaining 70% digital literacy by 2027. We know that with your support, your support for the work of the committee, and then also supported by your co-host and every one of us, will be able to actually not only achieve this, but surpass this target. Thank you always for the stimulating message. While the ES was giving his welcome address, I would like to recognize the presence of some of our dignitaries. Every of our participants are dignitaries, but would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Fumilayo More-Bise from the National Universities Commission. And of course, we have Professor Sadatu Hassan Lima. Professor Sadatu Hassan Lima is the first female Vice Chancellor of Nasarawa State University. We welcome you, Professor Lima. Thank you for joining us, and we appreciate the interest of everyone in supporting the committee and supporting the TED Fund towards working towards achieving the target of 70% digital literacy by 2027. Moving right along, it is time to take goodwill messages from those who have continued to identify with the work of the committee and that of the TED Fund in promoting the global conversation on digital literacy in Africa. I would like to invite Mr. Abdurrahmane Diallo from the head office of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO office in Abuja. Could the host kindly unmute Mr. Diallo, please? I've seen him on the call. Host kindly unmute the UNESCO representative.
Please,
Good afternoon. Please,
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, sir.
Okay. My name is Anthony Oguni. Mr. Abdurrahman Diallo has designated me to represent him at this meeting as he is currently in another engagement. So on his behalf, I'll be reading his goodwill message. You hear my voice, but the message is Abdurrahman's message. Architect Sonny Echono, the Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund. Professor Ebada, Sarhan, President, Future University, Egypt, and the keynote speaker of today's session. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with great delight I received the invitation to participate in this webinar and honored to be given the opportunity to deliver this goodwill message. This reinforces the cooperation between UNESCO and Nigeria, particularly in the space of tertiary and higher education. I seize this opportunity to appreciate the Executive Secretary of TED Fund for his leadership and commitment to enhancing tertiary and higher education in Nigeria. Indeed, education system in Nigeria is confronted with disturbing crisis of access, learning, and skills development. And concerted efforts are being channeled to address the situation, particularly at the basic education level. It is, however, important to ensure that an inclusive approach that holistically x-rays all levels of education, including tertiary education, is employed. I am therefore delighted that TED Fund is active in charting the course of expanding digital literacy and skills in Nigeria tertiary institutions. As an organization, UNESCO understands the evolving digital landscape and the need to foster digital literacy and advocate that learners are equipped with skills needed to strive in the future of work. UNESCO remains committed to empowering people of all ages with the knowledge and competencies needed to fully participate in the digital age. Knowing that digital literacy goes beyond how to use digital devices and applications, it is important to prioritize capacity building to access, manage, understand, integrate, communicate, evaluate, and create information safely and appropriately through digital technologies. Of equal importance are emerging skills that will be in high demand as the world continues to evolve. These skills would include creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, and adaptability will be key to thriving in the future of work, where jobs and tasks are rapidly changing. By nurturing these transversal competencies alongside digital literacy, we can empower individuals to become lifelong learners, ready to take on the uncertainties and possibilities of the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, I acknowledge the tremendous efforts of the government of Nigeria in delivering quality education, which is evident in its Education Roadmap 2023 to 2027 and the DOTS priorities, the DOTS, the data, out of school, teacher, and skills priorities. With skills as one of the priorities, I would like to appeal to government and stakeholders to increase investment in digital infrastructure and connectivity, which includes provision of robust internet infrastructure and high-speed broadband access across higher institutions. Ensure improved power supply and facilitate the provision of computing devices and digital teaching and learning platforms. In addition, digital literacy should be integrated as core competency in the curricula and strengthen institutional capacities and governance. As UNESCO currently leads the global efforts to ensure digital literacy with emerging skills as a priority for the education system, I seize this opportunity to reiterate UNESCO's commitment to support Nigeria to have the digital competencies needed to thrive in the 21st century economy and society. On this note, I again congratulate TETFund and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this engagement. Thank you.
Thank you much, Mr. Anthony Oguneye, for delivering.
So let's do this and this. We are asked to account for.
Kindly mute Dr. Lee Oji. Okay, that's done. Thank you so much for that inspiring message. Recognize the role of UNESCO in fostering and supporting digital literacy initiatives across the globe and especially in Nigeria. We're going to take the next goodwill message from the World Bank. But before then, I would like to recognize Jan Day of Certiport all the way from the United States. For those who attended our second edition, you know that Certiport has been a strong supporter of the work of this committee, and we warmly welcome you and thank you for your promise of support to our Executive Secretary and the TETFund, and of course, to the Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity, and Emerging Skills. I would like to call on Ms. Ida S. Mbu, the ICT specialist, the Senior Digital ICT specialist from the World Bank, to give the goodwill message. Can the host kindly unmute Ms. Mbu? While we wait for her to get ready, I invite Professor Ayo Omotayo, the Director General, National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, to kindly give his goodwill message. Professor Omotayo. Right. Mr. Lamin Barrow, the Director General, Nigerian Country Department of the African Development Bank Group. We invite you to give the goodwill message from the AFDB. We'll take that later. From the regulatory agency, the Computer Professional Registration Council of Nigeria, CPN, I'll invite the registrar, Mr. Mohammed Bello Aliyu, for the goodwill message.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
My BC, our esteemed professional, Professor Francisca. Thank you, everyone. My name is Mohammed Bello Aliyu. I hope I am audible enough.
Yes, my registrar, sir, we hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. My name is Registrar CPN, Computer Professional Registration Council of Nigeria. The Executive Secretary, Sony St. Echono, my former Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education, and presently the ES of TEDFON, my older brother. I recognize you. The Chair, TEDFON Advisory Committee on Digital Literacy. Emeritus Professor Olubemiro Jegede, Head of Other Educational Regulatory Agencies here present, Head of Public Tertiary Institute, Professor Ebada Sarhan, President Future University in Egypt, relevant stakeholders in the education sector, other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great pleasure to be part of the 4th edition of the webinar on digital literacy series with the theme Compliant 21st Century Tertiary Education for Nigeria. As a stakeholder, I'm excited at the boundless opportunities and the prospects the advancement of tertiary education in our dear nation, Nigeria. Nigeria critical juncture. Our tertiary education system faces significant challenges, including inadequate digital infrastructure and unequal access to digital resources. However, these challenges also present entrepreneurship and inclusive growth. With the rapid pace, it is imperative that the system adapt to prepare students for the digital age. Any compliant tertiary education system is essential for Nigeria's economic development, social progress. There is therefore need to consider a comprehensive framework for forging an equitable, digitally compliant 21st century tertiary education. Major stakeholder in the educational sector, we at CPN are of the opinion that there is need to consider the adoption of key strategies in digital infrastructure, developing digital literacy programs, implementing inclusive online learning platforms, promoting open educational resources, fostering digital equity initiatives, supporting faculty development, encouraging digital innovation and entrepreneurship, ensuring digital accessibility and inclusivity, and developing strategic partnerships. By implementing these strategies, Nigeria can create a more inclusive, effective, and digitally compliant tertiary education system, preparing students for success in the 21st century. CPN congratulates Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TEDFON, under the able leadership of my older brother, Aksoni St. Echono. We are proud to be part of the giant strides and impacts that TEDFON is making as an intervention agency support to all levels of public tertiary institutions with the objective of using funding alongside project management for the rehabilitation, restoration, and consolidation. Worthy of mentioning also are TEDFON's numerous special and annual interventions in the tertiary institutions spread across the length and breadth of our dear nation. TEDFON is making full proof of its core mandate. I want to seize this opportunity to assure tertiary and indeed this gathering that computer professional registration, the regulatory body for the practice of information technology in Nigeria, will continue to collaborate realizing its set objectives. We at CPN look forward to the report and outcome of this webinar because we are confident that it will enrich and position tertiary education in our dear nation to harness great Nigeria for sustainable national educational development. We are confident that the webinar will meet and indeed surpass its set objectives, which include the development of a roadmap for digital literacy, and the blending of tertiary education system with making use of the best global practices to avail Nigerian tertiary education workers, learners, and graduates for sustainable prosperity. Forging an equitable, digitally compliant 21st century tertiary education system in Nigeria requires a collective educators, private sector, regulatory agencies, and international partners. With the sustained effort of TEDFund and other stakeholders, Nigeria will no doubt create a more compliant tertiary education system, preparing students for success in the 21st and driving economic development and social progress in Nigeria. We at CPN, we wish you well in your we wish you fruitful deliberation. And we also want to remind you that setting the IT educational standard is one of the core mandates of CPN. I wish you all the best now and forever. Thank you for your attention and God bless you. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much, our dear registrar. What more can we hope for? The one and only regulatory agency for the IT profession in Nigeria has just pledged the support for the effort of the TEDFund and that of our amiable ES. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, special guests, we are going into the keynote proper now. And it is my honor and pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker for today. If you allow me to share my screen, the host. Professor Ebada Sarhan is the keynote speaker, is a professor and founding president of the Future University in Egypt. He has held this position since 2006. In 1995, he founded the Faculty of Computers and Information at Helwan University, and the first faculty of its kind in a public university in Egypt. He had previously, in 1984, established the Scientific Computing Center at Helwan University. Professor Sarhan held several academic positions at Helwan University, leading to his promotion to the Dean of the Faculty of Computing and Information at the same university. In 1984, he was a visiting professor at the Old Dominion University in the United States. He's a member of several organizations, including the Egyptian Computer Journal Publication Association, the Egyptian Engineering Syndicate, the Scientific Committee of the International Conference on Artificial Intelligence, the Egyptian Teachers Syndicate, among others. Our keynote speaker today has always been active and he served as a member of the National Information Committee at the Egyptian Academy of Scientific Research and Technology, and served as at the Egyptian National Council for Information and Communications Technologies, ICTs, and a member of the Computer and Information Systems Committee at the Egyptian Supreme Council of Universities. He is a member of a number of international organizations outside of Egypt, the British Computer Society, the United Kingdom Institution of Electrical Engineers, and the United States IEEE. Professor Sarhan also served as a member of the Evaluation Committee of Information Technology Projects and undergraduate degrees of Computer Science at the Ajman Faculty of the Ministry of Higher Education, in the United Arab Emirates. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished keynote speaker is an author and has published more than 45 scientific articles in international and local journals in the field of computer science and information technology. In his education, he holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Communications and Electronic Engineering from Cairo University, a Master of Science in Computer Science from Manchester University in the UK, and a doctorate, PhD, actually, in Computer Systems from the Heriot-Watt University, Edinburgh. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Ebada Sarhan, to speak to us on the topic of forging an equitable, digitally compliant 21st century tertiary education. Host, could you please unmute our keynote speaker and bring him up?
Hello? Can
Yes,
you hear me?
hello. Yes, we hear you. I'm going to spotlight you now for everyone.
Good afternoon. I'm really glad to be with you this occasion, and really the topic you chose is really very vital and important for all the world. I mean, everybody on this earth really must do his best to explore the digital literacy and try to use digital platforms for our education. So digital literacy really is an essential for economic development, job creation, and social inclusion. Despite significant challenges, there have been notable advancements and ongoing efforts to enhance digital skills across the continent. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, President, we hear you.
There are challenges and gaps. The sub-Saharan Africa faces several obstacles, including underdeveloped digital infrastructure, limited access to affordable internet, and a significant digital skills gap. So only about 50 to 60% of African countries incorporate computer skills in their schools' curricula, compared to higher globally. This really is evident in the high demand for digital skills in the job market. And there are more than 60 to 70% of job vacancies that require at least basic digital skills, leading some companies to recruit internationally. So again, we can speak about the progress and initiatives. Despite these challenges, there has been substantial progress. Internet access has grown rapidly, with about 115% increase in users. And we can start by, let's say, 2016 and 2021. Various initiatives are underway to improve the digital literacy. For instance, the World Bank supports numerous projects aimed to enhancing digital infrastructure. Additionally, programs like Microsoft for AI Africa and Developing in Vogue provide targeted digital skills training across multiple African countries. Strategic frameworks and collaboration is running between the African Union agenda that emphasizes the importance of digital education for sustainable development, which is very important. And the United Nations is always after the sustainable development of countries. This strategic framework seeks to transform Africa into a global powerhouse by integrating digital skills into the education system and promoting collaboration between governments and private sectors and educational institutions. Successful digital transformation also requires an ecosystem approach involving policy support, infrastructure development, and public-private partnerships. So maybe I can conclude briefly that while we all face in Africa significant challenges in digital literacy, ongoing efforts and collaborations are paving the way for a more digitally skilled workforce, essential for the continent's future and economic growth and development. So really, in brief, we must work more on digital literacy because, as I can see, all countries around in Africa are trying and doing their best to enhance their productivity in this area. But still we need, because technological advances are really very tremendous and change on daily basis. So we really must cope with this and try to help our children to be better than we are. And it's really a very good challenge for us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarhan, for the keynote speech. Our keynote speaker identified, and what we all know, that digital literacy is significant for economic development. And of course, Africa, we need to promote this to be able to catch up with the rest of the world, especially the West. He identified one key challenge, which is the infrastructure, and then of course, consequently, the digital gap. And then because of the high demand for digital skills, developed countries tend to look towards the developing nations. And so we need to make sure that Africa is actually ready to churn in talents to the rest of the world. The keynote speaker identified the support of international development partners like the Microsoft that provides training, the World Bank Group, and of course our own very own TED Fund that has been advocating for the integration of digital skills into the school system. He further made a case for policy support by governments and organizations and public-private partnership to ensure that we're able to incorporate digital skills into the training of the young generation. Despite all the challenges, he believes that Africa can actually become a digital skills center supplying the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard from our keynote speaker, and we'd like to open up the floor now for questions, discussions, and contributions from our distinguished participants. There are 234 of us right in this room, with 4 people in the waiting room. I believe it's going to be a robust discussion. Kindly signify by raising your hand electronically so that I can call up as I see on my screen. Professor Jagede, you're the chair of the Tech Fund Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity and Emerging Skills. The keynote speaker has touched on some of the work you are doing. Perhaps this would be a good time to also reinforce some of the contributions of our committee in achieving digital literacy. You need to unmute, sir.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the keynote address. I really enjoyed it. You're very straight to the point, very succinct, and you mentioned the most important parts of it, and that's what a keynote address is supposed to be. Just flag the ideas and let people now fill it in. I want to say 1 or 2 things in relation to what you said. I think the first is that there must be a national resolve to ensure that the infrastructure is there to launch or to make everybody get involved in digital literacy. But beyond that, we must have the curriculum. You can have the infrastructure, you can have the teachers, you can have everything. If you don't have the curriculum in school, it will not make any sense. So we need to have that. And that's why I'm so happy so happy that some developments recently are pointing to that direction. NITDA and several others are working on curriculum for the school system from primary. Oh, sorry. Beyond that, again, government has said in a policy statement that nobody should be given any job in the civil service or in the public sector. Nobody should be promoted. Nobody should do exams and all that unless you are digitally literate, unless you are certified. So it means very soon everybody in Nigeria willy-nilly must be digitally certified. You must have digital literacy certification. And government is making sure these are done. For example, I've heard of several ideas or several plans to train, in some cases, 3 million people, in others, 1 million people, in others, 5 million. So and that's why government says by 2027, we must have at least 70% of the people digitally literate. Otherwise, we'll be lagging behind in the digital economy of the world. We'll be lagging behind in capacity development. We'll be lagging behind even in education, because from now on, digital literacy will be the one to control everything. And of course, I do hope that the JCC meeting that is going to come up in Calabar on the 27th and 28th of May will discuss this, and that whatever curriculum is put before them will be scrutinized, will be debated, adopted, or whatever it is. We must get onto it. There is nowhere, our teacher training must be right from the word go. All teacher training institutions must begin to teach digital literacy. They are teachers first, and then the teachers will go and teach others. That's one point. The next one, which I will do just in a minute to allow other people to come in, is the issue of equity. Equity in a number of ways. Gender equity. Are girls having the same access to digital literacy equipment and teaching? Are disadvantaged people, whether physical, mental, or whatever, are they having the access to digital literacy? Do we have the old and the young having access? Do we have the teachers and the learners having access? Do we have those that are governing us and those that are being governed having access? We all know that in a situation where those in government, those in governance don't have any inkling about digital literacy, we're not going to make any progress. That is what has informed India. That's why India, in almost everywhere you go, 60 to 70% of the workforce in any electronic company in the world is taken over by Indians. And of course, the Chinese are coming on. So Africa has been said to be a sleeping giant, and that when we wake up, nobody's going to stand us. Let's better wake up. And we must start from the school system. We must start from our teachers, and we must make sure that everybody is involved. And I'm sure you will recall that even the Executive Secretary of TED Fund in his welcome address emphasized this, and that the advisory committee will be reaching out to relevant MDAs in a short while to come up with, to streamline the curriculum, come up with standard infrastructure, talk about the baseline assessment, talk about the IC3 certification for everybody. I think I'll stop here to allow others to continue. If you allow me, I might talk to you tomorrow on digital literacy, because that's what I love doing. Thank you.
I know you're so passionate about this. Thank you so much for the excellent contribution. I have Jande has his hands up. Ask you to unmute, so please make your contribution.
Yes, thank you. Professor, appreciate the keynote. Thank you very much for that. I was wondering if you might expound a little bit on your successes at Future University with the digital literacy program, and how did you get that started, and what successes have you seen by that through your Future University?
Can you just raise your voice? I mean, it's because I couldn't hear all your questions.
I'm curious if you might share with the group some successes that you personally have had at Future University in skilling people on digital literacy and the outcomes that those students have experienced.
Yes, well, actually, we started with newcomers since 2000. Well, it's since actually the corona. Well, immediately after the corona, and well, it hasn't ended yet, but I mean in 2022, and we started, I mean, by giving digital literacy classes for our students who came from secondary schools. And again, we introduced digital platforms for them for learning. And again, which were used digitally. And then I think we will have the first batch of graduates this year, and then we will check and see how will the market accept them. So we will have our first graduates in June, which is a month from now, June 24. And hopefully we will just see the feedback of our market towards those who are digitally educated.
Thank you. That's my question. And if I could, while I've got the mic, to all on the call, it is so important that each one of us take this example and get our own students started. We've got to get started immediately, or we will never be able to get a trained Nigerian. It needs to start now. Thank you, Professor, for joining us today. Very insightful.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ma'am. I will invite Dr. Fumilayo Morebi Said from the National Universities Commission. You have your hands up, ma'am. Kindly unmute. Kindly unmute, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, the Executive Secretary and all the participants. All protocols are duly observed. I bring greetings from National Universities Commission, my acting Executive Secretary, Ambassador Chris Meyake. Just to add to this very important topic, there's no way a nation will develop without the citizens being digitally literate, because that's what propels to national development and global competitiveness. And then you see, within our mandate of recent, I've seen the importance of the computing environment, how important it is. And that is why the computing before was recognized as just a program. But due to this recent development, it has been actually broken down into various areas of computing. So now it stands as a discipline comprising cybersecurity, data information and communication technologies, software engineering, and so on and so forth. And with the latest comprehensive curriculum that was developed, the CC-MAX, the Core Curriculum Minimum Academic Standards, a lot of futures were put in place. And we have 21st century skills. Digital literacy is one of them. And this cuts across all disciplines. Now we have 17 disciplines from the previous 14. And this digital literacy is one of the major key programs that are key in 21st century skills, employability skills that makes the graduates to be ready for work. Notwithstanding, as National Universities Commission, somebody mentioned it earlier, how do we feed into our university system? So there is need for more collaborations, more efforts, starting and catching them young from the beginning, the primary to secondary school, and then feeding it into the university system. We cannot overemphasize the import of digital literacy in national development. So we call more, we are always open to participate, to collaborate, and to see more of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fumilayo from the National Universities Commission. Thank you for the excellent contribution to this conversation. I'll invite Mr. Moses Osai to please unmute and make his contribution.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I am the Director of Academic Planning of Delta State College of Education, Mosuga, as well as the TED Fund Desk Officer for Academic Interventions. Well, the discussion has been very robust, but I want to draw our attention to the challenges that are impeding this implementation of the digital literacy and even deploying it in the workplace. The greatest of these from experience is internet connectivity and power supply. Those of us in the relatively rural areas, we know that we suffer poor internet connectivity. For instance, TED Fund has come up with very brilliant ideas on how to even make digital submissions of our applications in the various intervention lines. But you discover that the internet is not friendly, and power is a big problem. So I think going forward, if we are to achieve these laudable goals, it will go a long way to also take up on these very vital challenges that are impeding this implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have identified some infrastructural challenges for internet and electricity in the rural areas. The TED Fund is at the forefront of digital literacy. Our ES is here. I'm sure that has been noted. And then the next time your institution is seeking for intervention, perhaps you should emphasize this rather than physical buildings, as the world is going digital as well. We are trying to eliminate classrooms with brick walls and looking at electronic walls. So perhaps you should de-emphasize brick walls and look out for electronic walls for your institution as the TED Fund Desk Officer when you're looking into your next set of interventions. We like to call on, we have one more person whose hand is up. Malam Shehu Abubakar, you kindly unmute, sir, and make your contribution.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. The Executive Secretary, the keynote speaker, and everybody, good afternoon once again. Mine is about the digital literacy skill abuse by our students. This initiative is meant primarily for the educational sector, and our students compose the majority number. In fact, all our activity is towards our students. I want to ask the keynote speaker on how do we plan to come up with plans so that our students don't abuse the skill when they obtain the skill. When you look at this, for example, social media angle, most of our students are very good at that angle. But instead of doing it for learning purposes and research, you find out that they are mostly on other areas that are deviant to learning and research. So I want keynote speaker to talk about how can we address this, because what TED Fund is doing towards gaining this digital literacy is very good. And on the path we are going on, I am very sure before 2027, we will achieve what we ask for to achieve. Thank you very much.
Our keynote speaker, would you like to address the question of how to handle the possibility of abuse by the students when we provide digital skills or digital empowerment there? Professor Sarhan?
Didn't get you. Can you say it again, please? How can I what?
To handle the possibility of abuse by the students when they're digitally empowered.
This is a very, very difficult question to answer because I mean, now we see a lot of students started, abusing in different universities all over the world. And I think now that we are, all over the world in universities, we're trying to have, I don't want to say counterattack, but have something which will manage and try to detect the abuse and stop it. But I don't think that we have something very concrete now, and still we are running short of these methods. But I think in the near future, we will be able to have these methods to start stopping the abuse of our students, because it's very, very crucial actually, and we are facing a lot of problems from this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Professor Jagade, were you trying to say something, sir?
Yes, I want to add to what Professor Sarhan has said. As if he read my mind. You cannot, in a democratic society, that's my first point, you find it difficult to control what anybody is doing unless there is some regulation on ground. If you don't have any regulation or regulations, people will do whatever they want to do. I recall that in those days, and I think it has even gone further now, if you get to Singapore and you go to a toilet in Singapore and you use it and you don't flush it, by the time you are getting out of the toilet, somebody is telling you to go and flush it. Because somebody has already seen you doing that. They regulate it. Here, we don't regulate anything. We hardly regulate this. Apart from the fact that we don't regulate it, who are the ones to police the police? We don't have the people, the senior people, really well versed in digital literacy. Only the young boys know it. So how can you be, it's like a blind person leading the person who sees. It never happens like that. The other one is that you must have the teachers who will guide them, who will direct them properly, and who will make sure that they are very well occupied by other things. I've always said it, that Nigeria has, by the grace of God, very, very cerebral of children coming up. They are just one of the best set of children we have. They pick up ideas so fast. So we will also see that the police are arresting boys who are doing all.
Prof, you're muted.
So we can look at the teaching, the regulation, getting the best boys together, charging them with activities, making sure they are fully utilized, they are fully used. That, I believe that is the way to go. And then, but the first thing is give them that literacy. Then we begin to watch how they are going to, or guide them, or as you are writing the curriculum and whatever, you are also talking about implementation strategies and how to put in regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Lubemiro Jagede, Professor Emeritus and the Chair of the TED Fund Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity, and Emerging Skills. AY Shew, we have 2 more hands up. With your kind permission, sir, I would like to take these 2 before we wrap up for the day. Malam AY Shew from Federal College of Education, Technical, Biflo, Zamfara State.
Thank you so much, Madam Host. Professor Francisca, you've been doing a wonderful job. Thank you so much. It's amazing, sincerely, the way you've coordinated the entire program. And I'm not surprised because TED Fund always try to bring very good things like this together. I have listened to all I've listened to all the statements around, and I have this. Coming from a female-only tertiary institution, technical college of education in sub-Saharan Africa, you know I am gender biased for women. However, I just want to, I have 3 items. One is directed.
What did you put in my name?
One is directed towards the ES himself, then to the Prof. Sarhan, then to all of us for the first one. I'll start with the last one, which is a simple data that we have that is already available, supplied by TED Fund itself, that over 25,000 PhD holders have been sponsored so far by TED Fund abroad and nationally to go and get further education for the general development of Nigeria. This is a very huge number. When you compare this number with the number China had when they were opening up in the 80s, late 80s or early 80s, when they opened up, those they sent out to the United States of America and the UK are the ones that are developing the economy of China as we speak right now. I would like us to take this as an assignment to just check China 40 years ago and check China now. You will see the crass difference. These are based on the fact that they've done what TED Fund is now doing, and they are able to see the benefit of those people they sent out to go and get these technologies, who they've returned, and they are doing what they ought to do. Now, what we have here right now, what we have and what we anticipate is that I want to suggest and propose this, that every scholar, TED Fund, especially scholar under the IT or ICT or computer-based or electronics that are sponsored by TED Fund, there should be a simple give back that can be called any name. I'm just calling it maybe community service, which is also part of our what will I say, our scheme of work as far as civil service is concerned, that you give back to the community where you are. So if TED Fund has been able to fund you with 15, 20, 30 million naira to go for a PhD and you are back, try and give back to those communities, because obviously you've learned a lot and there is a lot that you should be able to give back. We have a lot of PhDs that are all about research, not physically giving back to community. So if this can be taken, it will be like a dream come true for me as far as this program is concerned. The second item here is, sir, if it's possible also, if it's possible that we adopt the EU and some part of the United Kingdom way of PhD programs. When you go to the EU, any of those countries, to go for a PhD, you are going there almost like a scholar already, because you are giving back to their universities. Most of them will recruit you to take some of the masters and undergraduate students. So you are going there with your high skills and you are transferring your own technology to those countries. Naturally, they will pay you for that services and they will pay you for the research you are doing. So if we can imbibe such a strategy, we will retain a lot of good brains that we have here, and they will give back to our degree students and our master students in such a way that this comes as a kind of mentoring system. This is something that I believe this task can be coordinated by our own ES, who has shown that he is a techie person, very tech savvy. I know his skills in collaboration can also work this magic in such a way that we are able to achieve this. This can also be done in terms of the 3 million skill gap that NITDA wants to also make a reality. So in coming with this, what it means is that there will be a kind of connection with all these efforts across government line. NITDA is doing their own, NCC are doing their own, TED Fund are doing their own, Galaxy Backbone are doing their own. So this collaboration, if our ES can take this charge, I know he is going to go very, very far in harnessing all these technologies and all these skills that we need, and we'll be able to see the results firsthand. Sorry for taking long time. Sorry, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your contribution. Yes, I don't know if the ES want to react to that part, especially the ES, the third class. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Ewu, for your inputs. And I just want to, in a nutshell, just align with the views expressed. That is also part of our national strategy to harness all the intellectual resources we've been able to develop and to deploy them more efficiently to to the benefit of our economy. So I'll answer that in a nutshell. I also want to seize the opportunity of my intervention to just highlight a few things we are trying to do by way of new initiatives. For example, on our campuses, we want to launch Learn to Earn. So our students will also, through the digital resources we are providing on Terras, they will also be able to access some training that will equip them to be able to learn while they are still in school. And that project is going to be co-sponsored by Minister of Education and Minister of Communications, Technology and Digital Economy. And we'll be launching that very soon. Then we also have an initiative with the First Lady where we want to have experience centers, ICT centers on our campuses. And we'll be talking with the directors of ICT when we start. But it's an initiative we are doing in partnership with the Office of the First Lady, and you'll be briefed about that. Then to enrich our Terras platform, we are also having very advanced conversation with Coursera, with Udemy, on Udacity, so that we can have some collaborations and put additional resources on Terra. And that is something that is also going on, along with enhancement of communication skills, training our students and scholars to acquire these digital skills. And then, of course, the Blackboard technology that you talked a lot about already. Not only will it be useful to our students and scholars, but even the governance of our institutions. We expect that will improve. So again, we already have IPSCO on our platforms and other digital resources, and that we will continue to do. So I thank you.
Thank you so much, dear. Yes, it's so exciting to note some of this your initiative and the handshaking between the Federal Ministry of Education, the Federal Ministry of Communication, the TED Fund, the Office of the First Lady, and then of course all this international training platform, Udemy, Coursera, Udacity, and the rest of them. We're in for a beautiful ride, and the young Nigerians are going to have it so good. Before I call on the chairman of the committee for announcement, I'll take Dr. Bala Modi, the director of ICT, Gombe State University. He's going to be the last contributor before the chairman of the committee. Yes, Dr. Bala Modi.
Am I audible, please?
The line is cracking a bit on. Yes, sir.
It's cracking a bit. Am I audible?
A bit at my end. I don't know if it's me or. Yes, hello, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. So nice to see you again and to hear from you, Prof. I will call you my female mentor, the only one I think so far. We're proud of all you're doing, Prof. In fact, whenever I see you coming back from abroad from various occasions, I used to just look at myself and say, wow, this is brilliant. We're happy to have you on board as one of our mentors. And I also want to thank the ES for the good work he's doing. We can see a lot of services going on in TED Fund. Really appreciable, and I think it's something to really be proud of. I just want to contribute quickly because I know time is gone. Mine is on the issue of sustainability, really. Looking at what happened during the coronavirus and all that, it was like the whole academic institutions just had to ground. And that was because we couldn't do a lot. And a good example is we couldn't hold what we call virtualized or isolated examinations because we can't trust people sitting elsewhere writing exams. And I feel that when driving this digital process is important because we need to start thinking about examination proctoring, which is AI-based. Artificial intelligence has really gone a long way today. It will really assist in covering such futuristic events. If we can have AI proctoring to manage our examinations, so people can do it virtually and be trusted with the examination process, where we can actually verify who is a scam, who is cheating, and who is all that. So if we don't have any in existence, I would suggest that a sort of committee be set up so that they would look at a possibility of coming up with a solution that is AI-based, that allows for examination proctoring that is virtual and that is effectively pursuable and implementable, so that now we can sit elsewhere. Students can sit in markets, in the comfort of their home, sometimes even in hospitals if they can write exams, and the examinations will go on. A good example is when I was in Kenya, I think in June last year. I asked this question, and a lot of the sponsors that came up with all solutions there during the ID for Africa, I asked a lot of them, and they didn't have that kind of solution. And I was wondering why. So imagine the millions of schools intakes and students that we have. I think if you can have a solution like that, it will really help in fostering and utilizing digital literacy in a sort of more prospective way that is achievable. Thank you very much for permitting me to speak.
Thank you so much, Dr. Balamodi is advocating for intelligent proctoring system. Is looking beyond just the training, but in the area of assessment, how we can actually remove the human factor. It's a very important contribution. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to invite the chairman of the committee of Tech Fund Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity and Emerging Skills, Professor Emeritus Olubemi Jegede, for a few announcements.
Thank you very much, facilitator, and I want to thank everybody who has been listening and contributing. For me, what I've gathered from today's webinar, in addition to the past three we have had, is that there's a future for Africa, there's a future for Nigeria in the global digital economy, global digital education, and the global digital environment. I think we are on the right track. Perhaps we should have done this several years ago, but we are moving on. And I can assure you that based on what we have done here for the past 4 webinars now, we are enamored, we are strengthened that we are on the right track. But what we want to do is to change course a little bit and let Nigerians see how things can be. We can look at things differently. We are saying that all talk and no work will make Jill or Jane or whatever a very dull girl or a very dull boy. So we are saying, haven't talked for the past 4 webinars. We are going to have just one more. Thereafter, we will have a general, a kind of open market discussion about all the things we have done in the past 4 or 5 webinars. We are going to structure, we're going to look at it, we're going to distill everything, we're going to analyze, we'll bring it out, and we have a stakeholders meeting, intersectoral, interministerial, people from the private sector, the industry, people from the universities, even the students themselves. We want to bring everybody on board to discuss what we have gathered so far, and then, more important for the system, is to chart the way forward. How are we going to implement what we have had so far? After that, then we'll go on and continue with another section of the digital literacy issue. So in short, my announcement is that come for the next one, which will be a normal webinar. After that, we are going to have a marketplace discussion by everybody, and I mean everybody. If you can bring in the market women, if you can bring in the vulcanizer, anybody who has something, whom you think has something to contribute, and it can be in any language, we are not worried about it. We have a system where we can immediately begin to interpret it for everybody. We want everybody in this country, whether you are in government or you are in the farm or whatever, to come in at the next, not the next one, the following one, for us to discuss what we have had so far and put down how to implement it. We need to be guided. We need, both parties need to help. So the Tech Fund has brought us together just to harness people's ideas. Nobody has a monopoly of ideas. We know there are many people out there who have a lot of ideas. And based on what we have had therefore, or what we have the next one, being 5 webinars, we are all going to come together and discuss. But before then, we are going to summarize or analyze what we have gotten. We're going to send it out a week to everybody, a week before that marketplace discussion, webinar discussion, so that you all have something to talk about. And definitely, since we have a very fantastic facilitator, to be able to guide us so that people don't just go anywhere. It will not be a hydra-headed discussion, but it will be something guided to make sure we have some outcome of how to implement what we have just what we have been hearing. Thank you. That's my announcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Before we call on the secretary of the committee to give the vote of thanks, I still have 2 hands up. So We'll give 1 minute each to Innocent Agu and Dr. Adeboye. I'll start with Innocent Agu. 1 minute to take your contribution.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me very well?
Yes, I will hear you clearly.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, sir, I will hear you.
Okay. Actually, when Professor Jegede was talking on more than 3 occasions, he mentioned the teacher, the teacher, the teacher. I'm a teacher myself. I'm happy with him. My question is just very simple. What are we doing to motivate this teacher who is the hen that lays the golden egg in this digital literacy issue we're discussing? Thank you very much.
All right, Prophet, we just wait. We take Dr. Adeboye, then you can take the response to the two of them together. Yes,
Thank you.
Dr. Adeboye.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I want to appreciate everyone. My submission is just that although we are trying to bring the digital literacy into play, I want to suggest that once in a while, this program or workshop can be organized on site once in a while. So instead of making all the workshop webinars, thank you, that's my submission.
So you want us to take a workshop on digital literacy outside of the digital? Outside of the digital?
Yeah.
That is outside digital. That's interesting. Professor Jegede?
Yes. At least once in a while to bring everybody together.
Okay. I don't know how, it is not a simple question, but it's a very difficult one, because what you are saying, Dr. Adebo, is that we move from seminars to webinars. You are now saying we should go back to seminars. So people will be asking the question, why then do we have this virtual? This is that it does everything. We are seeing you, we are seeing me, and all that. But I get the point you are making. We still have this, not only the slow learners, we still have others who are finding it difficult to accept this new thinking. Because of that, the TOR, that is the terms of reference for this committee, is also to look at a digital literacy summit once a year. So that will answer your question. And you'll be the first to be looking out for when we have that face-to-face seminar or wanted to discuss this issue. So it's going to happen, but we're just waiting to see how we all gather steam and look at what is happening. Then we have, after the discussion, the open market discussion and working out the implementation strategies on what to do, then we can bring people together and say, this is what we have gotten. What do you want to say about it? The second is the question about teachers, about remuneration, or I won't call it remuneration, that I would think we'll be looking at incentives to encourage our teachers. I know of several initiatives in the country now talking about training teachers for digital literacy. I had a meeting this morning with the National Senior Secondary Education Commission. They came to meet us at the Literacy Committee to talk about how we can help them to teach their teachers so that the teachers can teach the students. And they have, from what we know, we have at least 5 to 6 million children in senior secondary school alone. And the teachers are in thousands. Yes. So we have to begin to train. But while you are doing that, I agree with the person who questioned, we must have some incentives for them. Already we are talking about providing digital badges. The digital badges that you can put in your protocol and use it for other things in future. In fact, people have stopped, other countries have stopped issuing physical certificates. They give you digital badge to recognize that you are there. And if you amass number of digital badges, you will qualify not only for promotion, you qualify for every other thing, you qualify for a reward by the ministry, by your school, by whatever. It's a pity that in our society, we seem to have thrown away the respect, and the integrity we've given to our teachers, because that's the base of the society. Without teachers, you can't have nurses. Without teachers, you can't have doctors. Without teachers, you can't have engineers. Without teachers, you can't have so the list is legion. So we need to make sure we make our teachers comfortable. And once they are comfortable, they will give their best. However, we must change. It will no more be the teacher, as I say, the teacher in front of the student saying he knows everything. It's no more possible. In fact, our children know more than we do as teachers. So we have to have the teacher or the facilitator by the side to guide them, just to guide them, not to begin to think that he or she knows everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Professor Jagede. So distinguished participants, remember the conversation continues. There will be a webinar, and after the next webinar, there's going to be an at-large multi-sector stakeholders forum to examine everything that has been done from webinar 1 to 5. I would like to specially welcome and recognize Mrs. Adekunla Adegoke. Mrs. Adegoke is the head of the Oando Foundation. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for the support. Thank you for all the efforts towards ensuring a digitally compliant 21st century Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very beautiful time, a very beautiful diet at today's edition of the Global Conversation on Digital Literacy, brought to you by the TED-Fund Committee on Digital Literacy, Productivity and Emerging Skills. I'd like to invite the secretary of this committee, Engineer Joseph Odo of the TED-Fund, to thank our distinguished participants, including our executive secretary, the chief host, and his co-host, the head of institutions, and everyone who has contributed to making today's webinar another very beautiful experience. Engineer Odo, please.
Thank you. I wish to especially thank all those that have honored our invitation for today, most especially Professor Ebada and Sarhan, and also Professor Jagede, Dr. Niran, and all those that have helped to make this another wonderful outing. Most especially to thank our very cerebral Executive Secretary for the initiatives that he continued to put in place towards making sure that the fund's mandates, the value for money which government drives, the present government drives, that he epitomizes that. And part of what we are doing, which we will use this opportunity to be able to request our beneficiary institutions, is giving some of the things that have been highlighted here, like the issue of power, sustainable power, the issue of provisioning infrastructure, especially campus-wide network, and also digital literacy programs, some of them that the fund is initiating. We request for support for the executive secretary's programs, for support for the fund's initiatives to make use of our intervention lines. We have our physical infrastructure intervention line, we have our zonal intervention lines, we have our ICT support intervention lines, to provision for sustainable power in our institutions, to provision for campus-wide network, to provision for the digital literacy programs. Some of them has been mentioned by Professor Jagede, which we'll be bringing online. Some of them also, some of the initiatives the ES has mentioned, the ones we are already doing, for example, the ATCs we put in school and the Blackboard. These are programs that will enable some of the issues that were raised here to be solved. For example, the issue of examination management that can be solved with the Blackboard initiative of TED-Fund, and also the Prometric Center that the fund is putting in place using the ATC ICDL model. We are putting things in place that at the end of the day will be able to make sure that internet access becomes available to students. We are putting mobile data in place, and this mobile data in place, like the challenge that one of the persons that spoke identified, issue of students making use of platforms for other things, not part of what has been put in place. The mobile data initiative that the fund is driving will enable students and teaching and non-teaching staff to only access whitelisted sites. And those whitelisted sites, it's an initiative that using AI, for example, we will be able to make sure that when you're giving data, you can only access the relevant areas you're meant to access, and you will not veer off to other unnecessary areas. So we request that people make use of the beneficiary institutions, make use of their intervention lines to put the enabling environment in place as we have put out today, and also to support the executive secretary's initiatives, so that at the end of the day, we can be able to make sure that both undergraduates can be able to have the requisite skills, and also that graduates, as they come out of school, will have the requisite skills, and also that government's initiatives and government's finances can bring value to our tertiary institutions. I thank you all for coming. I thank Professor Ebada again, once again, and also my bosses, the heads of institutions, and all others that have joined us for this fourth webinar. I wish you all safe back to your various work or your various destinations if you've traveled for this. And then I thank you all for attending this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Odo. Thank you, distinguished participants again. Finally, before we leave, it is time for everyone to turn on their cameras so that the secretariats and the meeting support can take photographs for our next publication. Kindly turn on your cameras.
Yeah, it's on.